You take a deep breath, settling into the quiet darkness of your room. There's a chill in the air almost, as if the earth itself is whispering to you. You're about to journey into the depths of the underworld, where the stories of gods and mortals twist into something more. Tonight, we're pulling back the veil on one of the most misunderstood figures of Greek mythology, Hades, the god of the underworld. You probably won't survive this journey after all. Few ever return from the realm of the dead. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from and what time it is in your part of the world now. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Hades, just saying his name sends a shiver down your spine, doesn't it? The god who ruled over the dead, the king of shadows, whose very presence was a reminder of the inevitable end that awaits all living things. But did you know that the truth of Hades' birth is one of the most enigmatic and shadowed tales in Greek mythology? Most know him as the dark and brooding god who lives beneath the earth, far removed from the brightness of Mount Olympus. Yet, his birth is a much deeper, more complex story, you see. Hades wasn't always the brooding, solitary figure we think of today. Born from the union of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, he was one of 3 brothers who would come to rule the world, in separate domains, but there's a catch. Hades' birth was shrouded in the shadows of a cosmic conflict, when Cronus, fearing a prophecy that his own children would overthrow him, swallowed each of them whole as soon as they were born. Hades was no exception. But Hades wasn't gone for long. You might know that Zeus, Hades' brother, eventually tricked their father into regurgitating them. But the truth is, Hades was born into a dark cycle, one that involved not just the violence of his father, but the remnants of a broken world, one that would forever mark his soul. Historians still argue about the emotional toll this had on the young god. Some suggest that his time in the belly of Cronus gave him a sense of foreboding and fatalism traits that would define his reign as the god of death. Others claim that Hades was simply an unwilling participant in the cosmic power struggle between the Titans and Olympians. Whatever the truth, this event shaped him into a figure of great isolation, a god far from the rest of the Olympian family, yet essential to their very existence. So what does this all mean? Well, you've just stepped into the heart of the underworld, where even the gods aren't immune to the chains of fate. Keep walking with me, because the path ahead is as tangled as the roots of the ancient tree that holds up the heavens. You feel the weight of the air shift as you continue your journey deeper into Hades' realm. The stillness here is almost oppressive, yet there's something oddly comforting about it too. It's as though everything in this place, every stone, every shadow has its purpose. And that, my friend, is where we begin to understand Hades. As you walk along the path, the world of Olympus seems like a distant memory. The golden palaces, the brilliant sunlight, the divine feasts, all of that is far above, out of reach. You're in a different world now, a world where Hades has chosen solitude over grandeur, a world where his power is wielded in silence. His exile, you see, wasn't a punishment. It was his own choice. Hades wasn't always the god of shadows, ruling over the dead. Once, he was as much a part of the Olympian family as Zeus or Poseidon, but he always kept his distance. Historians still debate whether this isolation was self-imposed, or if it was the result of being overshadowed by his more famous brothers. Either way, Hades carved out his own place in the cosmos, far beneath the Earth's surface, far from the distractions and dramas of Olympus. Imagine, if you can, the world Hades saw from his realm. No golden chariots, no thunderbolts crashing across the sky. Instead, the quiet murmur of the river Styx, the low, constant hum of the dead's whisperings, the eerie glow of the underworld's dim light. From this dark place, he observed the gods above his siblings and their endless squabbles over power, their grand ambitions, their fleeting joys and sorrows, while they competed for worship, fame, and control of the heavens. Hades quietly watched from the shadows, unconcerned with the affairs of the living. But Hades' sense of isolation wasn't born of mere preference, it was the product of his deepest nature. Unlike Zeus, who sought to rule the skies with thunder and lightning, or Poseidon, who sought to dominate the seas with his trident, Hades was drawn to the finality of death, the inevitability of it, and in that inevitability he found peace. The idea of living forever in an ever-changing world, surrounded by the chaos of immortality, did not appeal to him. Instead, he embraced the stillness of the underworld, a place where time was irrelevant, where everything came to rest. It was in this solitude that Hades found his true purpose. He became the keeper of souls, the god who guided the dead to their final resting places. But there was something more to it, something the other gods failed. To see, Hades wasn't just keeping the dead in check. He was creating balance. For in the underworld, the forces of life and death worked together in a way that the living could never truly understand. The dead were not his prisoners, they were his domain, a realm where the natural order was respected. The souls who passed through his gates were given the peace they had earned, while Hades watched over them, detached but not cruel. This wasn't a god who craved power. Historians still argue whether Hades' indifference to Olympus was a sign of wisdom or bitterness. Some believe he knew that true power wasn't in the squabbles of his siblings, but in the quiet dominion over the eternal. Others suggest that Hades, despite his cool exterior, harbored a quiet resentment. Not at being cast aside by Zeus and Poseidon, but at being misunderstood by the world. In the end, Hades' isolation became his strength. It was his domain, and no matter what Olympus did, no matter how the gods above fought for their titles, the underworld remained unchanged. As you walk through this realm, you might start to see it more clearly. The solitude that Hades chose was not the same as loneliness. It was his form of control, his way of shaping the world around him. He could not control the heavens, but he controlled what mattered most, the end. And in that, he found a sense of quiet, unshakable power. Now, as you step deeper into the shadows of this realm, it becomes clear. Hades wasn't the lonely god we often imagine. No, he was more than that. He was the gatekeeper of the eternal, the one who made sure that everything had its place in the universe, even death itself. The air grows colder as you continue your descent, and you sense the pull of something darker ahead. The underworld has always been a place of finality, a place where no one can escape, not even gods. And that brings us to one of the most controversial and often misunderstood episodes of Hades' reign, the abduction of Persephone. Picture it, a young goddess, daughter of Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, wandering the fields with the carefree innocence that comes from a life untouched by the cruelty of the world. Persephone's world was one of sunlight, the beauty of blooming flowers, and the warm embrace of her mother. But that world was about to end in the most jarring way. In a sudden, terrifying moment, the ground split open, and from the depths, Hades emerged, cloaked in shadows. In an instant, he seized Persephone, whisking her away to the underworld. To many, this act was nothing less than a kidnapping, a ruthless abduction by a god who sought to claim a new bride for himself, ignoring the pleas of Demeter and the natural balance of the world. But as with so many of Hades' actions, the truth is far more complex. Historians still argue about Hades' motivations. Some believe that his actions were purely selfish, driven by a desire to possess Persephone and make her his queen. After all, the ruler of the dead needed a queen by his side. Others, however, suggest that there was a deeper reason for his actions, reason rooted not in the cruelty of the god, but in the ancient laws of the divine realms. You see, in ancient Greek mythology, the gods were bound by a set of rules that governed their relationships with one another. The gods of Olympus might have seemed free to do as they pleased, but in reality, they were often caught in webs of fate, bound to uphold ancient oaths and obligations. Persephone's abduction, some argue, was not an act of malice, but a fulfillment of an ancient law, one that decreed that Persephone, as the daughter of Demeter, would one day be called to the underworld, just as all life must eventually meet its end. In truth, Hades did not force Persephone to stay in his realm. The underworld was not her prison, but her new home. Some versions of the myth suggest that Persephone found solace in the dark beauty of the underworld. She was, after all, the goddess of the spring, and in the depths of the earth, where life's cycles were hidden from view, she became the queen of the dead. But as time went on, Persephone was allowed to return to the world above, each year spending part of her life with Demeter, and the rest with her husband Hades. This seasonal cycle is said to be the reason for the changing of the seasons, periods of winter marking Persephone's time with Hades in the underworld, while spring and summer bloom in her absence. Now, you may be wondering, why would Persephone, a goddess of such immense power, accept her fate so willingly? Historians have speculated that this wasn't simply a matter of submission, but one of understanding. Persephone's role in the cycle of life and death was vital to the world's balance. Her time in the underworld symbolized the death of all things, the end of every season, while her return symbolized rebirth and the restoration of life. In this sense, her union with Hades wasn't just a marriage, it was a cosmic partnership, one that bridged the realms of life and death. As you ponder this, you might begin to see things differently. Hades did not steal Persephone away from the world above. He was fulfilling a part of the grand cosmic order, a necessity in the dance between life and death. Perhaps, in his own strange way, he understood the importance of this balance more deeply than anyone else. But of course, the myths of the gods are never simple. Every story has multiple layers, and with each retelling, new truths emerge. Persephone's story with Hades was not one of simple kidnapping, but one of necessity, transformation, and the never-ending cycle of life, death, and rebirth. As you continue your journey through the underworld, the weight of this truth hangs in the air. Hades' actions may not have been the cruel, selfish act they are often painted to be. Rather, they were a reflection of the god's understanding of the eternal nature of the cosmos. His power was not one of destruction, but of transformation, shaping the very essence of life itself, from its beginning to its end. The ground beneath your feet seems to pulse as you walk further into the depths. The air grows thicker, more oppressive, as if you're approaching something far older than the world above. You sense it in the way the shadows stretch. In the quiet that fills this place, the underworld is a realm of purpose. But what is its purpose? What exactly is the role of Hades, the god who oversees it all? The answer, as you might expect, is far from simple. The underworld is not a realm of punishment, as many myths might suggest. It's not a place where the wicked are endlessly tortured. No, the underworld is a realm of balance, a place where the cycle of life and death is maintained. And Hades was not just the king of this dark realm, he was its guardian, ensuring that every soul found its rightful place. Now, historians still argue about the true nature of the underworld. Some suggest that it was a place of eternal suffering, where the dead were doomed to wander aimlessly. Others, however, believe that the underworld was not a place of suffering at all, but a necessary transition between the world of the living and whatever lies beyond. And as for Hades, some see him as a tyrant, a god of cold, detached power. But there's another argument, one that's harder to ignore. Hades was a god of order in the grand scheme of things. The role of Hades was more than just overseeing death. He maintained the balance of the universe itself. Without him, the world would have descended into chaos. The souls of the dead would have wandered forever, lost and aimless. The living would have been unable to honor their ancestors. And the cycle of life, out of sync, Hades, it seems, wasn't merely the god of the dead. He was the one who ensured that life had meaning, that each soul had a place to rest when its time was done. His realm was a necessary part of the cosmic order, a space where the dead could live in peace, each soul receiving the honor it was. The underworld wasn't a hellish prison, it was a sanctuary, a place where the dead could find eternal rest, and where the living could know that their loved ones were cared for in the afterlife. But it wasn't just about the souls of the dead. The underworld had its creatures, its guardians, its very own ecosystem. The river Styx, the ominous ferryman Charon, the three-headed dog Cerberus. These were just a few of the many beings that made the underworld a functioning, albeit strange, society. The souls of the dead didn't just wander aimlessly. They were guided by the will of Hades and the laws of the underworld. And under his watchful eye, everything was in its place. It's easy to think of Hades as a cold and distant god, one who is unfeeling and detached from the world of the living. But if you look closer, you'll see that there is a kind of reverence in his rule. He wasn't the god of death in the way you might expect. He wasn't a destroyer. Instead, Hades was the god who oversaw the end of life, ensuring that nothing was lost, that nothing was wasted. The souls in the underworld were not trapped. They were where they were meant to be. Historians still argue whether Hades' role was truly as one of peace, or whether he was an unapproachable god, one whose heart was as dark as the realm he ruled. Some argue that his disconnection from the world of the living made him distant, even cold, but others see him as a god who understood the necessity of his role. In the underworld, there was no chaos, only order, and order, as you might have guessed, was Hades' greatest strength. As you move through this realm, the silence around you feels less oppressive, more calming. It's a world where everything has its place. You can almost hear the distant echoes of the souls who rest here, content in their final home. And Hades, he's watching over them, ensuring that the cycle remains unbroken. The underworld is not a place of suffering. It's a realm of quiet balancer, realm where Hades, its ruler, ensures that life and death are kept in harmony, just as they should be. As you move deeper into the underworld, you start to sense the subtle presence of something more, something far beyond the souls and shadows. The power of Hades reaches far and wide, though not always in ways that you might expect. His role isn't simply confined to the dead. No, Hades has had his hand in the lives of heroes, living beings who were fated to tread paths of hardship, yet somehow crossed paths with the god of death. And in those moments, Hades revealed a different side to himself. Take, for example, the legendary hero Heracles. You probably know him for his great strength, his 12 labors, and his famous showdown with the Nemean lion. But one of his most challenging tasks was something far darker: the journey to the underworld itself. Heracles was tasked with capturing Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guarded the gates of the underworld, and bringing him back to the mortal world as proof of his valor. It was a dangerous and nearly impossible task, but it was one that Heracles completed with determination and grit. But here's the thing. When Heracles ventured into the underworld to fulfill his labor, he wasn't met with the wrath or hostility you might expect from the god of the dead. Instead, Hades welcomed him. There was no battle, no great struggle. Between the two, Hades didn't fight Heracles off. He allowed him to pass. Historians still argue about why Hades acted this way. Some believe that Hades recognized the heroism in Heracles, seeing him as someone whose fate had already been sealed by the gods. Others suggest that Hades had a deeper, more philosophical understanding of life and death. For Hades, life and death were not opposites, but part of the same natural cycle. If Heracles was meant to face his challenges, then it was inevitable that he would venture into Hades' domain. Hades did not oppose him. He didn't see this as an affront. Instead, he allowed the hero to succeed because it was part of the order of things. This wasn't just the case with Heracles. There was Odysseus, who descended into the underworld during his journey home. In the famous Odyssey, the hero travels to the land of the dead to seek advice from the prophet Tiresias. Once there, he is greeted by the souls of the deceased, including that of his mother, and is given guidance on how to return to Ithaca. But it's the encounter with Hades that reveals something truly Remarkable about the god, Hades doesn't act as a mere obstacle for Odysseus. In fact, he's one of the few gods who gives Odysseus a chance to learn more about the world beyond. He allows Odysseus to speak to the dead, to seek knowledge from the past, and to understand the complexities of life and death. There's no sense of anger or bitterness from Hades, just an understanding of the greater forces at work in the world. And then there's Achilles, the great warrior of the Iliad, whose story is one of death and immortality. Achilles, too, has a connection to Hades, though it's not one of choice. When the hero dies in battle, he finds himself in the underworld, and it is there that he learns the true cost of immortality. Achilles is not a hero who escapes death. He is forced to face it head-on. Yet, when he speaks to Odysseus in the Odyssey, he reveals a surprising sentiment. Despite his fame, despite his immortality on the battlefield, he would rather have lived a humble life than been remembered as a great hero. For Hades, these encounters weren't about punishment. They were about revealing truths. Every hero who entered the underworld, whether willingly or by fate, was offered something by Hades, a moment of clarity about the inevitable end, a glimpse into the bigger picture of life and death. Hades didn't seek to rob them of their greatness or to trap them in his realm. He sought only to make them understand that no matter how great their accomplishments, their fate was still tied to the cycle of life and death. Historians still debate whether these moments were acts of compassion or a cold reminder of Hades' power over life itself. Was Hades showing mercy to the heroes, or was he simply letting them face their own mortality in their own time? Perhaps the answer lies in the fact that Hades never tried to interfere with their fate. He simply watched, waiting for them to arrive in his realm, as he did with everyone else. The interaction between Hades and these heroes reveals something important about his nature. He wasn't a mere tyrant ruling over the dead. He was a god who understood the necessity of life's cycle. He didn't interfere with the heroes' journeys or try to prevent them from succeeding. Instead, he was a quiet observer, knowing that all paths eventually lead to the same destination. And so, as you walk through this realm, you start to see Hades in a new light, not as a distant figure of death, but as a god who plays a vital role in the lives of mortals, guiding them toward their inevitable end. But not without offering moments of wisdom along the way. You take a step forward, and the air seems to thicken. There's a strange hum beneath the earth, the faint echo of voices long silenced. The underworld is alive, but not in the way you might expect. Here, you're not just surrounded by shadows, but by souls, millions of them, each with a story to tell. They are the unsung residents of Hades' domain, forgotten by the world of the living, but never forgotten by the god who rules over them. In this realm, the dead are not just wandering spirits. They are part of something greater, something that sustains the delicate balance between life and death. The underworld is more than a prison for souls. It is a complex society in itself. Hades' realm isn't simply a dark, desolate place where the dead are forgotten. It's a land filled with its own inhabitants, its own creatures, and its own rules. And those who find themselves within it are not left to wander aimlessly. No, Hades ensures that every soul finds its proper place. You might have heard of the river Styx, the infamous river that separates the realm of the living from the underworld. The souls of the dead must cross it to reach their final resting place, but only with the help of Charon, the grim ferryman who demands a coin as payment for his service. This coin, the obelisk, was placed on the lips of the deceased as a means of securing safe passage. Without it, the soul was left to wander the shores of the river for eternity. Unable to reach their final destination, historians still debate the exact symbolism of the river Styx. Some suggest that it represented the finality of death itself, the inescapable barrier between life and the afterlife. Others believe it symbolized the journey of the soul, a passage from the world of the living into the unknown realm of death. Regardless of the interpretation, one thing is clear: The river Styx is essential to the workings of the underworld, and Charon, its ferryman, plays a key role in ensuring that the souls find their way. But it's not just the souls of mortals who find themselves crossing the Styx. You've heard of the Furies, haven't you? The terrifying trio of sisters Electomegera and Teusaphina, who serve as agents of vengeance, punishing those who commit heinous crimes. They are the enforcers of justice in the underworld, ensuring that the wicked are held accountable for their actions. But the Furies are not the only inhabitants of this realm. At the gates of the underworld stands Cerberus, the three-headed dog who guards the entrance, ensuring that no soul escapes. Cerberus is a creature of terrifying strength, a symbol of Hades' unyielding power, but even he has a place in the balance of things. He isn't there to cause harm. He's there to ensure that the dead remain where they belong. His role is as much about order as it is about power. And then, of course, there are the Shades, the souls of the dead, who wander the underworld, each with their own fate. Some of these souls are trapped in eternal punishment, while others wander in a peaceful existence. Some are lost, unable to find their way to their final resting place. Hades is the one who ensures that each soul is judged, guided to their place, and given what they deserve. But not all souls are treated the same. There are the blessed souls, those who lived noble lives, and they are granted peace in the Elysian fields, the paradise of the underworld. These souls live in eternal bliss, free from the torment that others may face. They are the ones who have found favor with the gods, the ones who have earned their peace. And then there are the souls who wander the asphodel meadows, those who lived neither virtuous nor wicked lives, but simply existed. These souls are neither rewarded nor punished. They are, in a sense, forgotten, drifting through an existence without purpose, neither joyful nor suffering. There's also Tartarus, the deepest, most terrifying part of the underworld. This is the realm of punishment, where the worst of the worst are condemned. Here, the souls of the most heinous criminals face eternal torment. It is not a place for the faint of heart. Tartarus is reserved for those who have committed crimes so vile that they are beyond redemption. Yet, even here, Hades plays a role in maintaining order, ensuring that the punishment fits the crime. Historians still argue about the morality of Hades' role in this process. Some believe that his actions are just, that he is simply fulfilling his duty as the god of the dead, ensuring that the souls find their place and are judged accordingly. Others argue that Hades, in his detachment, is indifferent to the suffering of the souls in his realm. But one thing is certain: Hades is not a god of cruelty. He is a god of balance, maintaining the order of the afterlife. As you walk through this realm, you realize that the underworld is not just a place of darkness and despair. It is a realm of profound purpose. Every soul has a place. Every being has a role, and Hades is the one who ensures that the natural order is maintained. It is in this order, in this balance, that the underworld thrives. The air shifts again, and you feel the presence of something immense around you, as though the very fabric of the underworld is breathing. The deep hum of the realm grows louder, but beneath it, you sense something else, something far more ancient. And then, you see it, shimmering in the distance, the river Styx, its dark waters stretching endlessly before you, separating the living from the dead. This river has always been a vital part of the underworld, and its significance cannot be overstated. But what if I told you that the Styx is more than just a river? It is the symbol of the oath, the binding force between gods, and a pivotal element in the drama that unfolds in the realm of the dead. The river Styx, according to legend, was a gift from the Titaness Styx to Zeus during the Titanomachie Great War between the Titans and the Olympians. In exchange for her loyalty, Styx was given dominion over this river, which would serve as a boundary between life and death. Its waters were said to hold immense power. To drink from the Styx, or even to swear an oath by its waters, was to invoke an unbreakable promise, one that could never be undone. Historians still debate the full meaning of the Styx and its significance to the gods. Some suggest that it represents the inescapable truth of fate, the final barrier between life and the afterlife, while others argue that it symbolizes the sacredness of promises and the weight of divine commitment. Regardless of its deeper meaning, there's no denying the role it plays in the power dynamics of the gods. It's the Styx that binds gods to their word. If a god swears an oath by the river, they must honor it, no matter the consequences. This is why, when the gods make promises to one another, the Styx is involved. This sacred river is the godly equivalent of a contract, a divine agreement that cannot be violated without severe consequences. To break an oath sworn by the Styx would result in dire consequences and eternal punishment, a curse from the very heart of the underworld itself. But it's not just the gods who are bound by the Styx. Even mortals, as Heracles and Odysseus learned, are subject to its influence. When Odysseus visited the underworld, he performed a ritual to summon the shades of the dead, and in doing so, he was required to make a sacred promise. The Styx played a crucial role in the workings of the underworld. Its waters were more than a mere physical barrier. They represented the sacred, unbreakable ties between gods, mortals, and fate itself. Hades, as the lord of this domain, was not just a bystander in this process. He was the one who enforced the binding nature of these oaths. He was the keeper of the river, the one who ensured that the promises made by the gods and mortals alike were respected. The Styx wasn't just a river in the underworld. It was the cornerstone of the cosmic laws that governed the gods and the dead. As you walk along the river's edge, the faint echo of a promise made in the past lingers in the air. You can almost hear the whispers of the gods who swore their oaths by the Styx, promises made and promises kept, or perhaps promises broken, with consequences to follow. The river's power is as real today as it was in ancient times. Even in the quietest moments, you can sense the weight of these unspoken commitments. It's a constant reminder that even the gods must answer to something greater than themselves, something that keeps the very order of the universe in check. Hades, in his quiet power, is not just a god of the dead. He is the enforcer of this divine law, the keeper of promises, and the one who ensures that the balance between the living and the dead is maintained. He holds the key to the Styx, and by extension, the key to the promises that shape the destinies of gods and mortals alike. Historians still argue whether Hades' role as the guardian of the Styx was a reflection of his character, or if it was simply an aspect of his domain that he inherited. Some believe that the river symbolizes Hades' power over life and death, while others suggest that it reveals his deeper understanding of the importance of oaths, of keeping one's word, and of respecting the sacred bonds between gods and mortals. As you stand by the river Styx, you begin to understand something more profound about Hades. He isn't just the god of the dead. He's the god of the promises, the oaths, and the laws that govern the universe. His realm isn't just a place where the dead rest. It's a space where the very fabric of existence is kept in balance. The Styx, with its dark waters, is the force that holds it all together. And Hades, he's the one who makes sure the threads of fate remain untangled. The silence of the underworld seems to deepen, and the atmosphere thickens with a sense of inevitability. As you walk through the darkened paths, you begin to notice something that wasn't immediately obvious before. Hades isn't merely a ruler by force. He's a god who understands the deeper, unspoken laws of the universe. The Styx, the river of oaths, is a testament to that. But what if I told you that there was more to Hades' power than just his domain over the dead and his enforcement of divine promises? Hades' power isn't just one of strength or control. It's a power that lies in the shadows of the gods themselves, the subtle, almost imperceptible authority that shapes fate, destiny, and the very course of human history. While Zeus commands the skies with his thunderbolt and Poseidon rules the seas with his trident, Hades' realm is one of quiet, unfathomable influence. His true power lies in the realm of death, but not in the way you might think. The underworld is not just a place where souls go to rest. It is the final stage of a cycle that governs the universe itself. Without death, there can be no life. And without Hades, there would be no passage from one realm to the other. His role in the grand scheme of things is far more profound than most realize. He doesn't simply collect souls. He is the god who maintains the cosmic balance, ensuring that life and death are not separate but intertwined. Hades' role isn't merely to preside over the dead, it's to ensure the cycles of the universe continue unbroken. From the first breath of life to the final exhale, Hades is the quiet observer, the keeper of the unspoken truths that bind existence. In a way, he embodies the inevitability of change. The forces of life and death are constant. They are not separate entities, but two sides of the same coin. One cannot exist without the other. The seasons change because of this. The harvests come and go, and life continues in its endless loop. All of it is thanks to Hades' quiet, eternal reign over the dead. Now, think about this. When mortals die, they don't just fade into nothingness. They pass into the realm of the dead, to be judged and placed in their rightful home, whether it be the peaceful Elysian fields, the shadowed asphodel meadows, or the tormented pits of Tartarus. But that process isn't as simple as it sounds. Hades doesn't just sit on his throne, watching the souls pass by. He's deeply involved in the fate of each soul, ensuring that justice is done, that each individual receives what they deserve. But here's the twist. Not all souls are so easily judged. Some remain trapped in the realm of the dead, unable to find peace. These are the souls that wander the underworld, forgotten and lost, their desires or actions preventing them from finding rest. In a sense, these souls are the ones who challenge Hades' power, souls who cannot move on either because they have unfinished business or because they are burdened by guilt and regret. These souls are a reminder that Hades' role isn't just as a god of death. He is also a god of redemption, a keeper of the balance between justice and mercy. Historians still debate whether Hades' interactions with these lost souls are acts of compassion or indifference. Some believe that Hades is simply fulfilling his duty to the cycle of life and death, remaining detached and impartial as he guides each soul to its place. Others argue that Hades, as the god who understands the true nature of death, is capable of showing compassion to those who are trapped, even as he enforces the natural order. In the end, it is clear that Hades is not simply a ruler of the dead. He is a god who understands the complex web of emotions, desires, and fates that bind the living and the dead together. One of the most intriguing aspects of Hades' domain is the sense of transformation it offers. Souls may enter the underworld as one thing, but they emerge as something else. The river of time flows through the underworld, and as it does, the souls that pass through it are changed. Whether through the peaceful rest of Elysium, the purifying trials of Tartarus, or the limbo of the asphodel meadows, each soul undergoes a transformation in the afterlife. It's in the underworld that these souls are refined, reborn in a way, shedding their mortal concerns and becoming something eternal. This transformation is something that Hades, in his wisdom, governs with quiet precision. He doesn't merely oversee death, he oversees change. The souls that arrive in his realm aren't simply erased from existence. They are given the opportunity to evolve, to find peace or punishment, and to eventually become part of the grand design of the universe. Historians still debate Hades' level of involvement in this process. Some believe that he plays an active role in the redemption or punishment of souls, using his power to guide them. Others believe that Hades is more passive, simply allowing the natural order to unfold as it will. But regardless of the answer, one thing is certain: Hades' realm is not just one of death, is one of change, transformation, and eternal balance. And as you walk through it, you begin to understand that his power is far more than what it appears on the surface. It is the power of the unseen, the subtle forces that govern life, death, and everything in between. As you move deeper into the shadows, a sense of awe surrounds you. The underworld is vast, its mysteries stretching far beyond what any mortal can truly understand. The further you walk, the more you realize that this realm is not simply a domain of the dead. It is a place where the very foundations of the universe are preserved, and at the heart of it all stands Hades, the god whose authority is as absolute as it is unseen. Hades' influence isn't just confined to the realm of death, extends far beyond the borders of the underworld, even touching the lives of the gods themselves. His relationships with his brothers, Zeus and Poseidon, are crucial to understanding the delicate balance of the cosmos. While Zeus rules the sky and Poseidon commands the seas, Hades reigns over the earth's hidden domain, the underworld. Yet, despite their shared power, Hades' relationship with his brothers has always been one of distance, and, at times, tension. The division of the world among the three brothers after the Titanomachy seems like an easy one. Zeus took the heavens, Poseidon took the seas, and Hades took the underworld. But in reality, the dynamics between these three gods were far more complicated than they might appear. Zeus and Poseidon were often caught up in the struggles of the living world, their domains constantly in flux, their power on display for all to see. Hades, on the other hand, remained in the shadows, removed from the tumult of the world above. Historians still debate the nature of Hades' relationships with his brothers. Some suggest that Hades was the quiet third party, uninterested in the squabbles and competition between Zeus and Poseidon. Others argue that Hades, though distant, harbored a deep resentment toward his brothers for their dominance over the heavens and the seas. It's easy to see why he might feel overlooked. While Zeus commanded the sky with his thunder and Poseidon stirred the seas with his trident, Hades' domain was one of solitude, a place where life and death met with little fanfare. The underworld wasn't a place for grand displays of power. It was a quiet realm, one where the dead passed in silence, unnoticed by the living. Yet, despite this apparent neglect, Hades' role was arguably the most important of all. Without him, the balance of the cosmos would have faltered. The dead would have no place to go, and life would have no end. The cycles of nature would be thrown into chaos, and the very fabric of existence would unravel. Hades wasn't just the ruler of the underworld. He was the keeper of cosmic order, ensuring that the balance between life and death was maintained. But there's something else here, something that might surprise you. Despite his apparent indifference to the world above, Hades was far from uninvolved. His actions, though often subtle, were crucial to the stability of both the mortal and divine realms. One of the most significant examples of this is the tale of the Titanomachy itself, the war between the Titans and the Olympians that defined the very structure of the universe. During the war, Zeus and Poseidon fought with all their might, using their elemental powers to crush their enemies. Hades, however, did not play the same role. His strength didn't lie in raw power or brute force. Instead, Hades used his intellect and his understanding of the deeper workings of the universe to help tip the scales in favor of the Olympians. It was Hades who provided the final, crucial element that helped the Olympians win the Helm of Darkness, a magical artifact that rendered the wearer invisible. In a sense, Hades' role in the war was one of subtlety. He didn't seek to dominate the battlefield like his brothers. Instead, he used his unique power to ensure that the gods' victory was guaranteed. This, too, speaks to Hades' nature as a god of balance and order. While Zeus and Poseidon were caught up in the heat of battle, Hades stayed in the shadows, quietly ensuring that the victory would be theirs. His actions weren't about glory. They were about maintaining the natural order, making sure that the right outcome occurred, even if it meant going unnoticed. Historians still argue about whether Hades was truly content with his role in the war. Some believe that he took a quiet pride in ensuring the Olympians' victory, while others suggest that he was resentful of being sidelined by his more flamboyant brothers. Whatever the truth, one thing is clear: Hades' power was never one of spectacle. It was a quiet, pervasive force that shaped the course of events in ways that the other gods could not fully understand. As you walk deeper into this realm, you begin to see just how intricate the web of relationships between the gods truly is. Hades, the god of the underworld, is not simply a ruler of the dead. He is a god whose influence extends far beyond his domain, touching the lives of the gods and mortals alike. His role may be subtle, but it is no less important than the more visible powers of Zeus and Poseidon. In many ways, Hades is the glue that holds the entire cosmos together, ensuring that the delicate balance between life and death is maintained. As you continue your journey through the underworld, the atmosphere shifts once again. The air grows thicker, almost oppressive, as though you are approaching a place even darker than the realm of the dead. You're moving deeper into Hades' dominion, and now it becomes clear that his influence isn't just about overseeing the souls of the dead or maintaining cosmic balance. It's also about the ultimate test of the soul: redemption, punishment, and the consequences of actions. Long past the underworld, as you might expect, is not a simple realm. There are many layers within it, each with its own rules, its own logic, and its own consequences. And among these layers, perhaps the most infamous and misunderstood, is Tartarus, the deepest, darkest pit of the underworld. While Elysium is a paradise and the Asphodel Meadows are home to the indifferent souls, Tartarus is where the most heinous sinners and offenders are imprisoned. It's a place of punishment, but it is also a place where the boundaries of justice are tested. Tartarus is a place reserved for those who have defied the gods, committed unimaginable crimes, or upset the balance of nature itself. Here, the souls are punished, but in a way that often goes beyond mere retribution. The punishments meted out in Tartarus are designed not only to inflict suffering, but to ensure that the soul's punishment matches the severity of the crime. One of the most famous figures trapped in Tartarus is King Sisyphus, whose punishment is as eternal as it is torturous. His crime was that he tricked the gods specifically. He managed to cheat death not once, but twice. For this, he was condemned to roll a boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down just as he neared the top. He would then have to start over again forever. The sheer absurdity of his punishment, the endless, futile cycle, makes it one of the most well-known myths of the underworld. But Sisyphus' fate is more than just a tale of eternal suffering. It is a reflection of the law of retribution in the underworld. The punishment fits the crime. But it's not just Sisyphus who suffers in Tartarus. There are others, two figures from Greek mythology, whose actions were so terrible that they were locked away in this dark, inescapable pit. The Titans themselves, for example, were imprisoned here after their defeat by the Olympians. They were the ancestors of the gods, mighty beings who once ruled the universe. But their arrogance and rebellion led to their downfall, and so they were cast into Tartarus, where they remain to this day, a reminder of what happens when one defies the natural order. Historians still debate whether Tartarus is truly a place of ultimate justice, or whether it is a symbol of the gods' own need for control. Some believe that it represents the harshness of divine law, where any act of defiance, no matter how small, is met with eternal punishment. Others suggest that Tartarus is a necessary part of the cosmic order, a place where the most egregious offenses can be corrected, or at least acknowledged, in the most extreme way possible. In either case, Tartarus is a reminder that, in the world of the gods, no action goes unpunished, and no soul can escape their fate. What's most intriguing about Tartarus is that it isn't just a place for the dead. It's a place for the living, too. The myths often suggest that the punishments of Tartarus are not just about retribution for past wrongs, but also about ensuring that the order of the cosmos is maintained. It's a place where balance is restored, where chaos is contained, and where the cosmic laws are upheld. As much as it represents divine wrath, It also represents divine order, a place where the natural world's injustices are corrected, no matter the cost. And this is where Hades' true power shines. While many see him as a distant, detached god, one who simply oversees the dead, his role in Tartarus is far more significant. Hades does not merely preside over the underworld. He is its architect, its enforcer, and its ultimate judge. It is he who ensures that the souls of the dead are properly judged and placed, that those who defy the gods receive their punishment, and that the natural order of life and death remains in balance. As you walk through the darkened halls of Tartarus, you begin to understand Hades' true role as a god of justice. He is not a god who seeks revenge, but one who ensures that the balance of the universe is maintained. His realm is not a place of suffering for the sake of suffering. It is a place where the laws of nature and the will of the gods are upheld, no matter the cost. And while you may never truly understand the depths of Hades' power and the intricacies of his realm, one thing becomes clear as you move through the underworld. Hades is not just a god of death. He is the god who maintains the delicate balance of the cosmos, ensuring that life and death, punishment and redemption, all fall in line with the eternal rhythm of the universe. And in that, he is more than just the king of the dead. He is the keeper of order itself. As you press forward through the shadowy corridors of the underworld, the air begins to thicken once more, almost as if you're being drawn toward something powerful, yet intangible. It's not just the vast expanse of Hades' realm that you are beginning to understand. It's the strange, almost paradoxical nature of his dominion, life and death intertwined, inextricably linked in ways that transcend mortal understanding. In the hearts of those who venture into the underworld, there's often the belief that Hades is a god of endings, that he's a figure who takes souls and who rules over the final chapter of existence. But there's a deeper truth here, one that few ever consider. What if I told you that Hades is also a god of beginnings? Not in the conventional sense. Of course he doesn't create life or spark new ventures, but he has a critical role in every new beginning that follows an ending. Let's take a moment to think about this. When you die, you don't simply vanish. Your soul doesn't disappear into nothingness. You're placed in a realm where you can rest, reflect, and undergo transformation. Whether you rest in the peaceful Elysian fields, drift aimlessly through the asphodel meadows, or endure your judgment in Tartarus, the underworld doesn't just end things. It begins the journey of the soul's evolution. You see, Hades' role is not just about maintaining death. It's about making sure that death is a necessary transition, a gateway to what comes next. While the gods of Olympus rule over the living, it is Hades who rules over the transition from life to death, guiding the souls into new states of being. There is no true end in his realm. Instead, there is the promise of transformation. Historians still debate whether Hades sees his role in this light, but some have argued that the god's deeper understanding of life and death is precisely what makes him so powerful. Where Zeus and Poseidon are busy with the grand displays of power, Hades' domain is one of quiet, eternal patience, a space where life doesn't cease, but instead transitions into something else. His work is not as easily noticed by mortals, but that doesn't mean it's any less significant. This concept is most clearly seen in the myth of Orpheus. One of the greatest musicians to ever live, Orpheus descended into the underworld after losing his wife, Eurydice, to a fatal snake bite. Desperate to bring her back, Orpheus sought out Hades, charming the god with his music. Hades, moved by the beauty of Orpheus' song, agreed to allow Eurydice to return with him under one condition: that Orpheus not look back at her until they reached the surface. Tragically, Orpheus couldn't resist and looked back, causing Eurydice to be lost to the underworld forever. The myth of Orpheus is tragic, yes, but it speaks volumes about the nature of Hades' realm. While the gods above are concerned with life and the living, Hades understands the deep necessity of death in the cycle of existence. His decision to allow Eurydice to return wasn't out of kindness or cruelty, was an acknowledgement that death is a part of the world that cannot be undone. The Underworld and Hades serve as the necessary counterbalance to life. Without death, there could be no new beginnings, no space for growth, and no true understanding of what it means to live. But here's where things get even more interesting. Hades' role isn't limited to guiding mortals through death and transformation. He also influences the living world in ways that are far less obvious. Think about the seasons. Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, is said to grieve for her daughter Persephone's absence during the winter months. But it's Hades who ensures that Persephone returns each year, marking the arrival of spring and the rebirth of nature. This cycled the descent of Persephone into the underworld, followed by her returns, symbolizes the endless renewal of life. In this myth, Hades plays a subtle yet pivotal role in ensuring that the world remains in balance. His connection to Persephone's return every spring serves as a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is the promise of renewal, the hope of transformation. Hades isn't just the god of death, he is also the god of change, of the cyclical nature of existence. Life cannot exist without death, just as death cannot exist without life. Historians argue whether this makes Hades a compassionate god, or whether he simply understands that the cycles of life and death must be upheld, regardless of individual desires. Some believe that Hades is detached, cold, and focused solely on maintaining order. Others suggest that, like the cycles of nature, his actions are driven by an ancient wisdom that life, death, and rebirth are all part of a natural flow that must be respected, no matter how painful it may seem. As you continue your journey through this realm, you begin to see Hades in a new light. He is not just the ruler of the dead. He is the keeper of cycles, the overseer of transitions, and the one who ensures that death, while final, is never truly an end. In his domain, death is a necessary part of the grand order of things, and through it, new life is born. Hades is the god who knows that every ending is simply the beginning of something else, and that is where his true power lies. As you continue your descent into the deeper recesses of the underworld, the temperature drops further, and you can feel a shift, a subtle, almost imperceptible pull that suggests something vast, yet hidden, in the distance. It's here that you begin to understand the full extent of Hades' influence, not just over the dead, but over the very structure of fate itself. As the keeper of souls, Hades doesn't merely shepherd the dead, he plays a fundamental role in the weaving of the fabric of destiny. In the mythology of the gods, the Fates were always considered the ultimate arbiters of destiny. Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos spun, measured, and cut the thread of life. The gods, despite their immense power, were often bound by the threads the Fates wove, and even the mightiest gods could not escape the reach of their influence. But what most people fail to realize is that Hades himself holds a quiet, critical influence in the world of fate. You might wonder, how does Hades fit into the picture? After all, the Fates control the destiny of mortals, gods, and even the dead. But while the Fates determine the beginning, middle, and end of a life, it is Hades who ensures that the end is final. Without Hades, the dead would have no place to rest, no final resolution to their lives. They would linger in a state of limbo, trapped between life and death, never fully completing the cycle. Hades is the ultimate enforcer of fate, the one who guarantees that every soul receives its rightful end. The Fates may determine the path of each soul, but it is Hades who ensures that the destination is reached. Without him, the natural progression of life and death would be interrupted. And so, Hades doesn't simply rule over the dead. He is an integral part of the cosmic order, a divine figure whose role is to make sure that fate is carried out in full. Historians still debate Hades' relationship with the Fates. Some argue that he is simply a passive participant in the weaving of fate, his role limited to enforcing the inevitable. Others suggest that Hades plays a more active role in shaping the destiny of the dead. that he is not merely the final step in the process, but a guiding force who ensures that the dead reach their true home. It's a compelling argument, one that paints Hades as not just a god of the underworld, but a keeper of the threads of fate. The role of Hades in the world of the fates is further emphasized when we look at the concept of the souls that occupy the underworld. Each soul has a destiny, a life that they lived, actions they took, and consequences they faced. Some souls, as you know, find peace in the Elysian fields, while others face eternal punishment in Tartarus. But what about those souls who don't fit neatly into these categories? The ones who aren't entirely virtuous, but not entirely wicked? Hades plays a key role in determining where these souls go, often based on the balance of their lives, an important aspect of his role as a keeper of order. But Hades' role is not just about judgment, it's about transformation. Every soul that enters the underworld undergoes a kind of metamorphosis. Some souls are purified, while others are trapped in eternal torment. But even in punishment, there is the potential for growth, for evolution. This transformation is one of the most profound aspects of Hades' influence. He doesn't simply end things. He helps souls undergo a process of refinement. Even in the depths of Tartarus, where the most notorious sinners are confined, there is the potential for redemption. Souls aren't merely punished, they are transformed in the process. This dynamic, the balance between punishment and transformation, is central to Hades' understanding of fate. While the gods above might intervene in the lives of mortals, seeking to alter fate or defy the natural order, Hades knows that the natural cycle of life and death must be respected. His role isn't to change the course of events, but to ensure that the cycle is completed, that each soul's journey ends in the way that it is meant to. And so, Hades becomes the keeper of the final chapters, the god who makes sure that every thread of fate is completed, no matter how long or short, how peaceful or painful. He ensures that nothing is left unresolved, and that every soul finds its proper place, whether it's in the tranquil fields of Elysium or the endless dark of Tartarus. Every soul is shaped by the invisible hand of Hades, the god who oversees the end of the story. Historians still argue whether Hades' involvement in the lives of the dead is one of compassion or cold inevitability. Some suggest that Hades' indifference to the lives of the living reflects his detachment from their fate. He is a god who only sees the finality of things. Others believe that Hades, with his quiet power and deep understanding of the cycle of life, is an embodiment of cosmic wisdom, ensuring that all things, good or bad, find their natural conclusion. As you continue to walk through this realm of shadows and whispers, you realize that Hades is not merely the god of the dead. He is the god of fate's finality, the keeper of the last act. And in this final act, there is a quiet dignity. In the underworld, no soul is forgotten. Each soul's fate is respected, no matter how tragic or triumphant. It is in this respect for destiny that Hades' true power lies. The air shifts once again, and you feel the ground beneath you grow softer, as though you've entered a new realm within the underworld. The stillness, while ever present, is now mixed with a strange energy, as if something vast is just beyond your reach. You find yourself walking along the edges of a great chasm, the boundary between two worlds, where the forces of death and life seem to meet and cross. This is the true essence of Hades' power. He exists not in isolation, but at the very intersection of these two realms. He is not only the god of the dead, but also the one who defines the rules of existence itself. Hades' influence, as you've come to see, isn't simply about keeping order in his domain. It stretches into the hearts of the living as well. You might think that the god of the underworld has little to do with the world above, but the truth is that Hades plays a crucial role in the destinies of mortals, shaping their paths in ways that are not immediately obvious. He is present in every moment of the mortal experience, even if his name is not always invoked. Take, for example, the myth of the Trojan War. It is often the gods of Olympus, Zeus, Hera, and Athena who, takes center stage in the tales of the war, but Hades too had his role in this epic struggle. The most important part of the myth lies not in the battles and the bloodshed, but in the moment of death itself. As warriors fell on the battlefield, it was Hades who claimed their souls. He was the one who welcomed them into his realm, regardless of their actions or their status. Whether they were heroes or cowards, it was Hades who decided their final fate. But what's fascinating here is the invisible power that Hades exerts even over the gods themselves. The souls of the dead may pass into his realm, but that passage isn't without consequence. The gods themselves are bound by Hades' realm. Their creations, their victories, and their actions are all framed by the inevitability of death. The souls they take into battle, the mortals they bless or curse, all eventually find their way to Hades, whose influence over the dead is absolute. It's in this sense that Hades' role transcends mere mortality. He is not merely the god of death, he is the god of all transitions, the final bridge between what has been and what will be. He doesn't simply wait for souls to arrive, he shapes their passage, ensuring that nothing escapes his realm, not even the gods themselves. The inevitability of death is as much a force as the will of Zeus or the oceans controlled by Poseidon. Hades, in his quiet dominion, ensures that even the immortals cannot escape their own fate. Historians still debate how much influence Hades truly has over the gods. Some believe that his power is, at times, subtly acknowledged, but not openly accepted. Others argue that his influence is, in fact, far more profound than it first appears. After all, every god, no matter how mighty, must eventually face the judgment of Hades, whether through their own death or through the eventual reckoning of their actions in the underworld. No one escapes the laws that govern this eternal realm. It's not just in epic battles like the Trojan War that Hades' role is felt. His influence extends into the quiet, often unseen corners of mortal life. In the lives of those who live in the shadow of death, Hades' presence is felt in every goodbye, in every farewell, in the knowledge that life is fleeting and that death, in its own quiet way, is always waiting. This is the true nature of Hades. Power it is not a power that is loudly proclaimed, but one that is subtly felt in every moment of life. Think, too, of the idea of the underworld in cultures across time. The Greeks were not alone in their reverence for death and its inevitability. From the Egyptian gods who judged the souls of the dead to the Christian idea of an afterlife, every culture has had its own version of Hades' domain. What is it that makes this notion so universal? Why has the idea of a god who oversees the dead endured throughout history? Perhaps it is because death is the one certainty that transcends all things. Whether you are a mortal or an immortal, a god or a man, death is the great equalizer. Hades, as the god who oversees this ultimate transition, is the one who holds dominion over the most fundamental aspect of existence. He is not just a figure of death, but of the inevitability of change and the continuity of life beyond the mortal realm. As you stand at the edge of this great chasm, gazing out into the endless expanse, you begin to understand something about Hades that you never saw before. His power is not just over death, it is over the eternal passage of time itself. His realm is not a place of finality, it is a place of transition, where nothing truly ends, but is instead reborn, changed, and reshaped into something new. In his domain, everything is cyclical, even death. Nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed. Historians still argue whether Hades truly understands the depth of his own power, or whether he is simply a passive figure in the greater cosmic drama. Some suggest that he is a god who has accepted his role with a detached calm, while others believe that he is deeply aware of the way in which his realm holds the universe together. In either case, it is clear that Hades is more than just the ruler of the dead. He is the keeper of the cosmic cycle, the god who ensures that all things are eventually returned to the earth, to the universe, and to the endless flow of time. As you step away from the chasm, The echoes of the dead still linger in the air, and you feel the weight of Hades' power pressing upon you. His realm is not one of mere endings, but of eternal beginnings. In the underworld, death is not the end, is the passage, the transformation, the constant renewal of the universe. You're walking now with a newfound understanding of the vastness of Hades' domain. But the underworld is not just a place of endless corridors, fleeting whispers, and shadowy figures. There's something more, something far more complicated, about Hades' role in the grand scheme of existence. As you walk further, deeper into his realm, you can feel the weight of something unspoken, the idea of Hades' true nature, the deeper truth about him as a god of the afterlife, what many do not fully appreciate, and what history often overlooks, is that Hades is, in fact, a god of profound complexity. While he is often portrayed as cold, unfeeling, and distant, there's a subtlety to his character that cannot be ignored. He is the god of death, yes, but he is also the god of balance, order, and, in many ways, fate itself. Hades does not simply rule the dead as an authoritarian figure. He ensures that all things are in harmony, that life's natural order continues. His cold exterior, often misinterpreted as apathy, is instead the necessary detachment required for overseeing a realm that must remain unaffected by the whims of the living. But as you delve deeper, you begin to sense another layer to Hades, a layer that involves an eternal struggle, not only within the underworld, but within himself. The myth of Hades' abduction of Persephone, for example, is often seen as an act of ruthless domination, a sign of his desire to possess. It's easy to label him as a villain in this tale, to cast him as a cold kidnapper of the innocent. But if you stop for a moment and reconsider the myth, you might begin to see Hades' actions in a different light. Hades wasn't simply abducting Persephone out of selfishness. He was, in fact, fulfilling a deeper cosmic law that even the gods of Olympus struggled to understand. Persephone's abduction wasn't a violation of natural order, it was a part of it. As the goddess of the harvest, Persephone had an inevitable place in the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. She was bound to the underworld, and in that Hades was not taking something that didn't belong to him. He was fulfilling the role of a god who understands the greater cosmic laws, even if those laws are not always pleasant or easy. Historians still debate whether Hades' actions in the myth were entirely justified. Some believe he acted out of selfishness and desire for control, while others suggest that his actions were a necessary fulfillment of the divine balance that even the gods could not escape. Was Hades' marriage to Persephone a forced union, or was it simply the result of a divine destiny neither could avoid? The truth, it seems, lies somewhere in between. Hades was not merely acting out of his own desires. He was acting within the confines of a cosmic framework that demanded his involvement, one that even the gods of Olympus could not override. In this way, Hades is a tragic figure. He is a god who must bear the weight of cosmic laws that leave him emotionally distant from the rest of the world. His very nature is a contradiction. He is both a king and a prisoner. He holds the power over the dead, and yet he is bound by the unyielding forces of fate. He must oversee the transition of souls, yet he is unable to change the inevitable nature of their arrival. His realm, while it provides order, also serves as a constant reminder that everything, including the gods themselves, is part of a cycle that cannot be broken. What makes Hades' role even more fascinating is how he interacts with the living, particularly the mortal heroes who venture into his realm. When Heracles entered the underworld to capture Cerberus, Hades didn't greet him with hostility. Instead, he acknowledged Heracles' bravery and permitted him to complete his task. In the case of Orpheus, Hades allowed the musician to try to retrieve his wife from the underworld, albeit with the tragic consequence that Orpheus could not follow the conditions set before him. In these encounters, Hades shows a level of respect for those who enter his domain, not out of compassion, but because he understands the value of the journey, the lessons that must be learned, and the inevitability of death itself. For Hades, there is no real good or evil. The dead don't come to his realm for punishment. They come because their time has passed. He does not judge them as the gods above would. He simply ensures that their transition is handled with the order that the universe demands. And it is this order, this understanding of life's inevitable end, that makes Hades one of the most misunderstood figures in Greek mythology. Historians have long struggled to reconcile the seemingly contradictory nature of Hades. On the one hand, he is a god of death and destruction, feared by mortals and gods alike. On the other hand, he is the god who maintains the cosmic order, the god who ensures that the world functions as it should. Is Hades cold and indifferent to the fate of souls, or is he simply a god who understands the greater picture? The truth, it seems, is that Hades is neither fully good nor fully evil. He is, instead, a god who represents the inevitability of fate, the unavoidable passage of time, and the necessity of death in the cycle of life. As you walk through the final stages of the underworld, the reality of Hades' role settles within you. He is not just the ruler of the dead, he is the keeper of destiny, the god who ensures that the world runs as it should, even when the consequences are harsh, even when they are painful. Hades is the god of the passage between life and death, the one who maintains the equilibrium that allows the universe to continue turning. You've reached the deepest corners of the underworld now, where even the faintest echoes of sound seem to dissipate into the darkness. The journey has been long filled with twists and turns, and with revelations that have reshaped your understanding of Hades. Now, as you move through the silent halls, you come to the realization that you've been walking alongside a figure who is often misunderstood, misjudged, and ultimately underestimated. Hades is not merely a god of death, he is a keeper of cosmic truths, a quiet force that holds the universe together in ways that most cannot fathom. And perhaps, in the end, that is what defines Hades more than anything else, his quiet, enduring power. Unlike Zeus, who commands the heavens with his thunderbolt, or Poseidon, who rules the seas with his trident, Hades' power is not in the spectacle of his actions. It's in his consistency, his presence behind the veil of the world. He is not a god who seeks the attention of mortals, who craves the praise and worship of the living. His power exists in the subtle, unseen forces that govern the cycle of life and death, the flow of time, and the quiet passage of souls from one realm to another. As you reflect on the journey you've just undertaken, you realize that there's a certain dignity in Hades' solitude. He is a god who does not seek recognition, nor does he require the adoration that his brothers do. While the gods of Olympus vie for supremacy, Hades is content to rule his domain with an unshakable understanding of his place in the grand cosmic scheme. His realm is not a place of chaos or rebellion, but of stillness and order. Here, in the shadows, Hades ensures that the cycle continues, that life gives way to death, and that death gives way to rebirth. It is a process that is as old as time itself. Hades' legacy is not one that demands to be seen, it is one that operates quietly, beneath the surface, in the background of the world. His presence is felt in the moments of transition, the moments when life fades and death arrives, when one chapter closes and another begins. It is in these moments that Hades' true nature is revealed, not as a tyrant, but as a necessary force, a god who ensures that all things have their place, their purpose, and their time. But perhaps most poignantly, Hades represents the eternal struggle between destiny and free will. The gods may have the power to shape fate, but they cannot escape the inevitable. They cannot avoid the end that comes for everyone, even them. And Hades, in his quiet wisdom, understands this better than anyone. He does not force the dead into his realm, he simply accepts them. He is the keeper of the boundary, the one who ensures that everything finds its final resting place. In doing so, he embodies the truth that all things, whether gods or mortals, one day meet their end. As you stand here in the final moments of your journey, you feel a deep sense of calm. The underworld has no end, no final closure, only transformation. Death, as Hades understands it, is not an end but a part of an eternal cycle. The souls of the dead, the souls of heroes, the souls of the forgotten, all are part of the same flow, moving from one realm to the next, never truly vanishing, but being reborn in different forms across the passage of time. And in this eternal truth, you come to understand the role of Hades more fully. He is not merely the god of the dead, but the god of time, of endings, and of the eternal return. His role is not to end life, but to ensure that it continues in the only way it can, by returning to the source, by being part of the great cosmic cycle. His power, his influence, his very nature are inextricable from the universe itself. Without him, there would be no balance. Without him, there would be no transition. In the end, Hades is a god who understands the deeper truths of existence. He is not bound by the fleeting struggles of the gods or the mortal world. He is a god who exists outside of time and space, watching as the threads of fate weave their intricate patterns, knowing that everything will eventually come full circle. As you stand at the threshold on the edge of the underworld, you realize that Hades is not the villain many believe him to be. He is a necessary force, a god whose domain, though dark and hidden, is just as vital to the workings of the universe as the heavens themselves. The cycle of life and death, the passage of souls, the unbroken flow of time, these are the domains of Hades, and in this quiet, unassuming god, you find not fear, but respect for the inevitable, the constant, and the eternal. So as you prepare to leave the underworld behind, you do so with the understanding that Hades is not simply the ruler of the dead, but the keeper of a deeper truth, that in death as in life, there is always transformation. And in that transformation there is balance. As you step away from the shadows of the underworld, the world above feels distant, like a dream slipping away with the dawn. The weight of Hades' power lingers with you, an understanding of a quiet God who holds the world together in ways you can barely comprehend. The journey has ended, but the lessons you've learned here will stay with you. Death, as Hades showed you, is not to be feared. It is simply a part of the great cycle, a passage from one state of being to another. And in that passage, there is wisdom, there is transformation, there is balance. As you drift off into the stillness, the hum of the underworld fades, and you can almost hear the distant echoes of the souls moving from one realm to the next, part of the eternal flow. Now, let the world of the living fade away and embrace the quiet, the calm, the eternal rhythm of the universe. Hades has shown you that even in darkness, there is balance, and in that balance, there is peace.